Great. So I would like to go ahead and call the meeting of the Boxborough Economic Development Committee to order. It is Thursday, February 12th. The time is 8:04, and I will take a roll call vote, starting with Lala,
Silverish present.
Megan,
Connor present.
John, Mark.
White present.
Okay. Well, we still have a quorum, even if.
Sorry, Abby, I'm Nealon present.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to do our minutes first, the minutes from January 15th. Those were sent out, actually, I think twice. Does anybody Alec, can you bring those up, or that would be great.
Thanks for fixing some of them, Abby.
Oh, just some small, like little stuff. Okay. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes?
About the Thinking Flower opening hours, I'm not sure whether they are open on Sundays. I'm not sure. Is there any changes with the hours? Because I thought they open only from Tuesday to Saturday. I'm not sure though.
I'm not either. Alec, do you have any idea?
I do believe they are open on Sunday, but I can double check that while the meeting's underway.
Okay, all right. Yeah, she does have a website, so I'm on there too. Just make sure we get it right. Tuesday through, oh, it's only the Insta. Oh, yeah, you're right, Lala. She's not open on Sundays.
Yeah, because I am open on Sunday.
All right. All right. So Megan, you can make that correction. Any other corrections to the minutes? All right. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to accept them as amended.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, second by Megan. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Lala?
Silverish, aye.
Megan?
Connor, aye.
Mark?
White eye.
John?
Nealon, aye.
And Reap, aye. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. All right, so now we can move into the really fun part. We're welcoming Austin Nipper from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC. Alec, do you have anything to introduce first?
I'll just introduce Austin briefly. He and I kicked off this project about a week ago on a Zoom call, himself, and another planner from MAPC. I'm filled with both confidence and excitement. I think Austin has the perfect background for this project, and I'm really excited for the enthusiasm that he brought to that meeting. He has a presentation to go over and some questions to prompt you as the board for discussion. He has also forwarded me his slides, so I'll circulate those after the meeting, but I'm really excited for the project, and I think you'll enjoy his approach and enthusiasm as well.
That's great. Thanks so much. Welcome, Austin. It's nice to meet you.
Absolutely, I'm thrilled, and I'm quite flattered by Alec's introduction here. Let me see if sharing the screen is working.
Works for me.
Perfect. Yep. Okay, so am I good to go?
I think so. Is everybody can see the screen?
Yep.
Nobody's used. Okay, we're good.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Take it away.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Boxborough Economic Development Committee. I'm excited to be here with you. As Alec alluded to, we met last week and we talked about what would be most helpful. So I've got a presentation that should probably take about 15 to 20 minutes of presenting, and then there's a few questions at the end to stimulate conversation. But the goal is to really hear from you as my first opportunity to download your information. Local context and information. So really excited for this, and I'm grateful to be included in your agenda at all. So here, let's go through it. I have just 13 slides or so. The first handful are going to be on me, so you can get to know me a little bit better, and then I'll walk through like the phases of the Boxborough Economic Development Plan as it's structured in the contract scope of work at a high level, so that you can see some of the activities and can go from there into the discussion. So. My face is already floating around on a box somewhere, I'm sure. But hi, I'm Austin Nipper. I'm based out of Allston, Massachusetts, so where I live with my wife Nadia. I'm a recovering Floridian, but a perk of that is that I'm still thrilled by snow. So I'm still excited by it. It's still a glimmer in my eye. A fun fact about me is I think at this point I'm one of the stalwart or the top moviegoers. Is that go a little under every other week, and so I think that comes out to about 20 times per year. So just start with a statistic is always a fun way to start a presentation. But a little bit more about me is that I think bring a non-traditional or unique trajectory into economic development planning as a field. I'm a recent entrant actually to it, but I think you'll see that my experience is applicable to your interests here. I joined MAPC as a senior economic development planner in October of 2025, so a little under 6 months ago. But before that, I worked at the U.S. Department of Labor in Washington, D.C. for over 6 years across 3 different agencies. Most recently, I was at the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Policy, which is the top policy office in the department, managing research and evaluation and planning projects across 20 agencies. I worked on the side of the house that coordinated the learning and that the department does, where I managed about $20 to $25 million worth of rigorous evidence-based building products, with subject matter experts and PhDs to get at is this program working to empower working class folks and help them build better lives. I also worked previously for the Office of Disability Employment Policy, so I had some experience in applied work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, making intersections with healthcare and the workforce. Ensuring that whenever you encounter an illness or an injury, you have the supports you need to return to the work as needed and as wanted. I also, prior to that, worked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics at an interesting time for statistics, because I worked in the inflation numbers during the pandemic, to where I think it was quite a hot topic, and it was fun and interesting to see the public get this general awareness and interest about how we measure these things. My education background, again, is going to be applying a combination of experiences as, a former economist, former labor economist. And so when I think of economic development planning, I think of what does it mean for individuals, and do their paychecks sufficiently meet their needs, and how do we build their power to have their own agency over their lives. So I see economic development as a tool for empowering folks, and so excited to be here with you and excited to work with you on what Boxborough can achieve in the near term. And so I'm glad and honored to hear that the town has so much enthusiasm and has been looking forward to it for years at this point. A few projects that might be of interest that's within my portfolio. Again, coming as a labor economist, my portfolio has labor and workforce specialty. So that's my specialization within the agency. So I'm leading on the Good Jobs Metro Boston Coalition, which is across 3 sectors: clean energy, healthcare, and childcare. It's $50 million worth of workforce development and training and placement to improve outcomes for individuals, but also foster these critical industries in the region. There's also a couple other labor and workforce development projects I work on as part of in the climate context, ensuring that we have the workforce skills and also a thriving industry to meet the moment when it comes to the region's needs for evolving climate and clean energy work. One that I think is particularly interesting or unique is Housing and Urban Development's pro-housing grants and projects is about off-site construction for residential housing, and why I think it might be interesting or, excuse me, eye-opening is it's essentially taking the work sites of a residential housing construction project and turning it a little bit more into a factory job to where it's got a central location and is often replacing vacant research and development, facilities or labs. And so, interesting new space that the region is exploring. I also lead on economic feasibility assessments, so crunching the numbers to see if inclusionary zoning policies pencil out and are profitable and meet state scrutiny for the purposes of MBTA 3A communities, regulations. So that's a little bit about me. Now let's actually talk about what's going to go into this project and all the opportunities that you'll have to support this and have input and to learn more about the town that you serve. So we've got a lot of text on the screen. There are quite a lot of goals here outlined in the document if you've had a chance to review, or will be shared afterwards. At a high level, the economic development plan, through its combination of activities, will provide an overview of the town's local economic context and identify strategic opportunities for diversification and growth. We can kind of consider that as like the top line summary. Part of that, our goal is to come up with plans and strategies that improve community members' employment outcomes. We want to effectively expand the mix of goods and services available in the commercial districts, strengthen business retention, expansion, and recruitment. We want to address barriers to economic opportunities for target groups within the community. We want to enhance overall quality of life, and we want to all this being in line with Boxborough's racial and social equity goals. So, is that it? That's all we're going to do with this project. It's quite a list, but I think we can do it. And so, how are we going to do that? Well, over the next a little under 12 months, the period of performance goes until the end of January. So over the 12 months, the first few months are going to be on the desk work about doing the data collection and equity analysis to turn out initial economic and equity data analysis product that will be a component of the final plan. The longest and meatiest middle part is going to be the community and stakeholder outreach that'll contribute to reports on a survey and summaries of a focus group, as well as a memo that describes the work that we did around economic inclusion and what we learned. The penultimate 2-month period, if I can try that word out, is development strategy and policy recommendations, where we will start drafting those development strategies and recommendations document, as well as a report that goes into those policies. And of course, the last couple months are going to be the grand piecing it together in the economic development plan. So that's the 4 phases at the highest level possible. What are we calling them? How long do they take? What's the deliverable associated with each? Going just a few more slides into adding a little bit more color or context about these steps that go into each. So we're already checking something off the box, so round of applause, pat on the back to everybody here. We're checking off the 1.1 kickoff meeting as part of this first phase for data collection and equity analysis. So again, it's in the data collection portion. That's why the download of your findings and your experience in the later part of the discussion is going to be super helpful to help orient me on Boxborough itself. We're going to be identifying racial and social disparities and economic opportunity with, oops, did not mean to click that forward. Trying to drag something out of the way. We're going to identify racial and social disparities in economic opportunity, including those observed around both employment access and outcomes, as well as other indicators of community wealth, such as business ownership. We're going to conduct an environmental justice analysis with input from the DEI committee as planned in this project. And again, that'll serve a deliverable around, or sub-deliverable around the economic and equity data analysis that we have, and so that we will have the opportunity to brief you on that step as we conclude that work. At each one of these phases, built into it is an opportunity for, if interested, to have another briefing, to have another phone call like this to touch base. Phase 2, what does community and stakeholder outreach look like at this point? We have budgeted and are planning for developing and distributing multilingual community surveys, also holding multiple listening sessions with historically marginalized groups in Boxborough. These focus groups will also conduct focus groups with organizations that operate within the community and have relevant insights for the development plan, such as business owners, representatives within the community organizations, other key informants that through these conversations over initial months will hone in on who would be most valuable at these tables. And so that'll be interesting, exciting. That will feed into, again, a report on the surveys and focus groups and an assessment of what we learned on economic inclusion in Boxborough in particular. That gets us into the latter months about where we're going to start translating this work into a development strategy and policy recommendations. So, 3 prongs around that are going to be about the workforce, zoning, land use, and incentives, and as well as grant readiness and economic policy in general. We want to all the while ensure alignment with state and federal funding programs to the best of our ability. We want to develop strategies that encourage growth equitably. We want to collaborate with leadership to integrate your priorities into all these policies. And again, this is where we're going to start building that final economic development plan. And the last few months is going to be phase 4, to where we stitch all this together and we draft that final economic development plan. We do review and we consult with the DEI committee, and we present and market it as a final deliverable. And at the end of the day, that'll get us to conclusion of this project. And so I tried my best to sum up 12 months of work, and also talking a lot of contract and legalese about what's in there. But that's just to introduce you to what's in the contract. It's explained in more detail that might have more vivid examples for each piece. But if we can transition now into a discussion portion, if you have any questions for me, we can start with that about the last 10 slides or so. I have a few questions for you. In general, I'd like to hear about, what problems are you hoping this planning can help you solve in your community? If you see opportunities that the Act Committee, as well as the DEI committee, could be helpful to this, this is a great opportunity to start introducing me to those ideas. And also, if you see challenges, whether in completing this work over the next year or, post that, what barriers there are to implementing the plan. These are all just food for thought, but I'll stop there for now. Does anybody have any questions for me before we jump into the discussion?
I'll ask the board first. No questions for Austin yet? Okay.
Not at this time.
All right. So I have a question that has to do with our collaboration with the DEI committee. I have reached out a couple of times to the chair of that committee, and I have not heard back. And so I'm a little bit concerned that I mean, I know that this plan, we definitely we want to focus on inclusion, but I think we might need some help, or we might end up, needing to pivot if we can't bring that committee in. And I don't know if you have any suggestions.
Yeah, so we've definitely named the DEI committee as the, for lack of a better word, advisory group here around DEI issues. But how it's written up and how the scope is written, that it doesn't specifically have to be them. So if for some reason they are hesitant to participate, or rather come in a later stage or whatnot, we still have flexibility to discuss how we can go about addressing inclusion and economic opportunity. MAPC, it's integral to our values as an organization, and so we do this in every project. And so we wouldn't have to necessarily change the scope of what we're looking at if the particular committee members aren't available for whatever reason.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. I definitely want to, want to keep the inclusion piece of this. I think obviously it's really important. But there are also, other components, I think that should be considered as we address this plan, like primarily the housing board. I think, housing is a big issue. And I know you've done work around MBTA communities, but I do feel like that would be also a good avenue to bring in, or a good component to bring into this work.
Absolutely. I have comments on that, but I see Diana has her hands raised if she wanted to add to that.
Are we taking public comment right now, or do you want to keep going? Because Diana's not a member of the committee, so I don't want to.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Why don't we finish, and then Diana, I can take some questions afterwards, but I'd like to let Austin go through the rest of his presentation and also kind of get some more information from the board.
I apologize. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So to your point about including housing, and this was something that came up in our initial conversation with Alec about, we see the issue of housing and affordability, right, oftentimes inseparable from the idea of equitable growth. And so, the housing team in particular at MAPC is quite interested about, how do we look at that angle on a more intentional and recurring route through economic development plans, as traditionally figured out. And so MAPC is definitely interested in that. And so I'd love to hear more about what do you mean by the housing issue, right? I just said affordability, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like, what does it mean to you when you say we'd like to address housing issues in Boxborough?
To me, it definitely means affordability. We have, our zoning is for single family. Our agricultural residential zone is for single family homes. The minimum lot size is 60,000 square feet, which is an acre and a half. And I can't tell you, Alec, maybe you know what the median house price is here, but it's probably, $800,000 or $900,000. So, we definitely have a lack of affordable single family homes. But I also think we definitely lack multifamily homes. We have multifamily apartments, but we certainly could use some more, like, in terms of affordable condominium type, attached houses, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think it does come down to affordability, and just the different types of housing that are available here.
Wonderful. And putting housing mix in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody from the committee have anything on like housing that they want to add?
Well, I kind of wonder, I mean, this is a new thing to us. So how much of what we're going to be talking about has to do with, I mean, affordable housing. I mean, so economic development to me means more about tax revenues, diversity of businesses, jobs. And again, for the town, primarily, I see it as revenue. I mean, that's really what drives an economic development committee, because we have a housing committee. They work on the housing part. We have a diversity and equity committee. They work on the diversity and equity. But the economic development committee works on economic development, and I just want to make sure we stay in our lane and not push out of it. So while, kudos to all the good intentions of those other things, it's like, well, where's the economic development committee fit into this, I guess, is the question.
Right. I guess, when I think about it, like if we have expanded businesses in town and we want to bring jobs here, I think it's important to think about, we want a place for people to live, people who work here, that they could live here. So that was, again, that's not the focus, but I do think that,
component. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I just don't want it to be like a primary driver.
Oh, no. No.
It's an element of it. And I just want to make sure that we understand what our job is to do here. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Austin, you want to keep going?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm marking my notes
Sure.
down correctly. Was that Mark White?
Yes.
Comments? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I totally hear what you're saying. Right about if we consider housing, right? Consider it along those lines of the revenues and how it supports businesses, how it supports jobs. Totally hear you on that. If there aren't any more thoughts on housing in particular, I have these 3 questions on the screen about, we could start with, what problems are you hoping this planning helps you solve? We've heard housing come up. Are there any other things that you think about that this economic development plan, maybe you're already picturing a year and a half from now, about what kind of projects this would unleash? I guess if we could drill down on what we think this will do for the town, at an abstract, that would be helpful for me to hear where your individual priorities are.
Mm-hmm. Mark, did you want to continue?
Yeah. So, I mean, what problems are we hoping this planning helps us solve? We just lost a major business that moved to New Hampshire. We still don't understand why they left. I mean, maybe it has nothing to do with Boxborough. Maybe it has something to do with Boxborough. To understand why businesses come here, what they value here, what we can offer them, and what they can offer us. Those are all the problems that we need to understand better, because it's a rapidly changing economic situation. We're quite dependent. 30% of our revenue is coming from businesses. So we need to understand the relationship that we have with those businesses, and so what's good for us and what's not. What ways do we see that these committees can be supportive? I don't know. That's a tough one because we don't know really what this is about yet. So until I know what's being asked of us in this process, I'll just kind of hold my thoughts until then. What are the challenges we foresee in completing and enacting this plan? I mean, this is a fairly difficult town to develop in compared to other surrounding towns. I'm also on the planning board, and I've been there for many permit applications. This is not an easy town to do business in, and particularly again when viewed through the lens of other surrounding communities. So we need to understand what we can do better, ways that we can get what we want. This town wants things, and we're willing to work with businesses to get those things. And again, that's what economic development is to me, is you're working with businesses. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, if economic development is not solely how do we interface with businesses, I'm curious to understand what else it means. So I guess you're the expert, so you tell us what the challenges are, and we'll see how we can work with you to overcome those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you brought up a couple of good points that might help stimulate more discussion. Alec brought up that you had lost that major business, and that it kind of came as a surprise that is drawing some of the committee's attention. And so I'd like to prompt a follow up on that about, like, when we think of businesses in Boxborough, what do they look like? Do they look like major businesses or small businesses, or a two-pronged approach? I guess where do we see the biggest need or opportunity as a general question there? Could we start with that?
Who's the question to?
I guess to all of us.
Yeah.
We do have some major businesses here in town, but I think it's pretty diverse. And I think one of the things we're hoping this plan is going to do is kind of parse out all the sectors and kind of show us where, we might want to focus in terms of recruiting and soliciting for, new businesses and what the options are there. Our economy, we can't be driven solely by mom and pop, small businesses. It's got to be a mix. And I think we do have a mix now, but, the departure of Syncor was really kind of a blow. And one of the biggest things about that departure was that a lot of people didn't even know that company existed here in Boxborough. And so one of the things we're really hoping to do is get the lay of the land and understand, which businesses are doing are operating here, what their needs are, and how we can get more of that.
Yeah, and I take it a step further and say, well, we need to better understand what businesses need from us. We need to better understand what we feel are compatible businesses with our community, because some businesses we feel are incompatible. We had an episode where Amazon came with a warehouse, and we resisted that, and it was very fractious. And so the community decided that that wasn't in our best interest, and we need to kind of develop that a little bit further to say, well, okay, well, it's okay for us to decide which things we don't want, but it'd be nice to kind of have a list so that somebody who comes here and says, well, I want to do this, you say, well, it's not really on our list. We probably should move on before you spend a lot of time and money applying to get there. And so that's kind of how I saw this exercise unfolding for us, was to help us become clearer on what it was we wanted, and then to help us also understand more clearly what businesses want from us. That's what I had hoped this would accomplish.
I agree. I think Mark has really shaped it. Does anybody else from the committee have comments or answers to the questions that Austin's put forth?
I do, if I may, Abby.
Please, go ahead.
My hope is that this can become a component of our master plan. I want this to try and, just like Mark was saying, I think we really need to outline for planning, because without it, as Mark said, our planning board has been very difficult, and it's if they have a plan like this that can guide and say this is what we want, and then it's not just a free for all of what they want. And I think, as Mark said, it's if we outline what is kind of a no-go. I mean, over the history of the last 25 years, big box store came in, we jumped ugly on that. Casino, we jumped ugly on that. Warehouses, so I think it's not hard to. It seems like the overall sentiment of the town is they like the veteran community, but we all recognize that we do need some business and development. So if we can get this plan to kind of frame that, I think that would be a help.
Right.
If there are, I have a couple comments or questions that we can keep going in that direction, but I want to
Sure.
save space for if there are any other comments from the committee at that point.
Okay. Sure. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So, exactly what we're talking about, hearing from you about, what we're hoping to accomplish with this. And so I'm hearing a lot of recruitment and retention of businesses. So, I heard a couple examples of big box store, casino, warehouse, right? Is that it sounds like those were recruitment efforts in the past that did not pan out, and that was a tough sell for the community with regard to preserving the rural characters. A term of art, a phrase that I've seen through some documentation, right, as being important to the community.
Actually, Austin, it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Those businesses came to Boxborough and said, we want to put a warehouse here. We want to put a casino there. We want a big box store. And Boxborough said, no way.
Right.
Okay.
That's not recruitment.
That was not recruitment. That was like, they tried to bring it here.
Right.
And it just doesn't fit with our community. Yeah.
That for those industries and those actors within them, that the potential is clear and obvious, that it's Boxborough is findable on the map, so to speak, for those businesses. And so that's a fairly fortunate problem to have, people knocking on the door. And so just to kind of like expand on Mark's earlier point about what alternatives are there to discussing, the needs of businesses by talking to incumbents or potential entrants into the market, right? Is like something that MAPC is doing a lot of work around, especially like in the context of the phenomenon that's known as the silver tsunami, for lack of a more elegant phrase, is filling store vacancies, in general, activating them through a myriad of ways to keep foot traffic or other local traffic alive, even if there's a one or multiple vacancies in a district. one part of like stitching that fabric together is by understanding the barriers to economic opportunity for aspiring entrepreneurs. So those that are not yet in the established, don't yet have an established business, what it would take for them to essentially start their business in Boxborough as like another aspect of it. And that's like, going back to an earlier point about why that DEI economic opportunity lens is part of so much of the work is is that opens up the horizon on how do we get economic activity in this spot, what kind of services could we imagine are there, and who could be the ones that fill that. It might seem more like that goes in the local politics question that you would be better served to answer about what is acceptable to the community and whatnot is supporting the homegrown small business entrepreneur, and those types of aspirants might seem have a different character to it, if that makes sense. And so like that's part of the exploration of this is what works and what is appropriate for Boxborough, and by having these conversations, by having these focus groups, by having these surveys and roundtables, right? So I'll stop there. Does that stimulate any more thought?
I guess it all remains to be seen. You got to start someplace, and I think the questions you're asking are starting at the beginning, and that's good. We just need to kind of define the parameters of what it is we're trying to accomplish, and I'm still unclear on what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
What the goal is. What's the goal?
Alec, do you want to say something?
I see Megan has her hands up. I can hold my question. It's more of a thought-provoking question for the board.
Okay. All right, Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question about the types of committees that might also be able to help in addition to the DEI, getting people involved and hearing more about the thoughts for enacting this plan. And other experiences you've had, what type of committees are you thinking about?
Oh, is that question for me?
Yes.
That's a good question. And so I don't know about all the committees that are available within Boxborough about the housing or planning, but thinking about for example those small business entrepreneurs and ecosystem, right, might not be a particular committee that exists, particularly within Boxborough, but part of this process might be assembling, a panel that can serve that purpose of advising on this project. And so that's kind of what over the next few months, hearing from you about, I think this person knows a lot about this person from this committee or this person from that committee or other person within Boxborough or other organization, that we can assemble them and invite them to things that they serve as an ad hoc committee. And so I wouldn't say we have to merely find a committee. Is that part of this process is that we get to build it based on the goals that we're coming up with together. If that helps.
That's what I was wondering. So thank you.
Yep.
Alec?
Thanks, Abby. So a question I want to pose back to the board that'll help Austin kind of frame his public engagement approach in particular. So we've talked briefly about some of our larger employers, the recent flight of one. We briefly touched upon storefronts, which is mostly tailored to our small business community. Another community in Boxborough is our work from home community or our home-based entrepreneurs. And so my question back to the committee is, as we're going through this objective, is that a group that you want to do direct outreach to, those sole proprietors, individual entrepreneurs who are working just out of an office at home, but are very much present in our economic framework?
Sure. Why not?
As
Yeah.
someone who's doing that, yes. Be great.
As someone who has done that and does that, yes, yeah. Because I think the small entrepreneurs can be invisible, because they're just working by themselves at home doing their thing. And I know several people in town that own their own businesses and just work out of their houses. So I think that would be a component for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a balanced approach. I mean, there's Boxborough is traditionally a suburban tradesman community, and now it's become more of a bedroom community. But it's still got its roots there, and there's plenty of people in this town. There's quite a number of small businesses, and we were shocked to find out how many there were.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our problem is we're serving two masters here. What one is the large businesses, and then the other is the smaller. And there's a lot more smaller ones, but there's a lot more valuable larger ones, and valuable meaning in a dollars and cents way to the bottom line of the town. And so, again, we're cognizant, I think, of both, and we have to keep both in sight. So, I mean, whatever we do is got to be able to address both those communities. So that's easy.
Right. Right. Is there anything further from you, Austin, or we have a member of the public that has a hand raised?
No, I would just say, this is, again, the start of the conversation, right, is, communicating with Alec, communicating with me. On the next slide, I just have my contact information. This is the opportunity to think about, what are all the aspects and angles that you see in Boxborough that is, worthy of consideration of this plan, including, getting down to the individual contacts and, the organizations you think are helpful, right? It's my ask to the committee is not just to leave these questions here, but to carry them forward, to think of when you think about this as a project. And so I want to thank everybody for their contribution so far, and happy to follow your lead on more questions.
That's great. Diana,
Yeah.
do you have a question for Austin?
Actually, I had a question and some comments.
Okay.
Because we had a really long discussion. First of all, let me just say that as a member of the public, Richard has his, hold on just a second, let me turn his volume down because I'm getting a feedback echo here. Okay. First of all, as a member of the public, I just want to say that the idea that you can look at Boxborough as a single unit. When you look at the geography of Boxborough, we're not like some of the other towns. We don't have a post road. We don't have Route 20, where people put businesses along and preserve their town center. Basically, our town center is located where our main road goes through the center of town. So we have to be very careful that we look at those individual areas, the village town center around town hall. There's a lot of specific things there, a lot of specific historic buildings that would actually need to be preserved, and I want to talk about some of that later. But that is a different area than looking at the whole of Boxborough, where we have more commercial areas over on the west side. So I would like a plan to look at those different areas and not treat Boxborough as a unit, especially in terms of planning, but understand the characters of the specific areas that we're talking about. small businesses that are consumer friendly and walkable and attractive to help us create a village town center. That's a different kind of business than the kind of big businesses we're talking about that could go, say, on Swanson Road. So I think we have to be very careful about what our goals are in terms of economic development. And we have to be very clear to differentiate those goals because that's what the public wants. I just want to comment too briefly about the housing issue. We do have a project, Austin, a parcel right now, which is in the middle of town, which was considered for a fire station. There is a chance that now it will not be used for that purpose, and it is currently owned by the Housing Board. That is an opportunity for us to create. It's not a large number of units because we're limited by the water resources of that site, but it is an opportunity for us to create in the center of town affordable housing and other possible facilities on that parcel, which will enhance the town center. So we can incorporate the idea of DEI in that sense and affordable housing in an economic plan. The question I wanted to ask you earlier, Austin, was who will actually be writing this report? Do you write the report or does the committee write the report?
I write the report and present it to the committee.
Okay.
There's opportunity for feedback and revisions based on that input, but I write the report to answer that question quickly.
Okay, because that is interesting. So you bring it back to the committee and then they take a look at it and approve it. Is that the way it works?
Yes, and there's language about including enough budget for reasonable revisions or what have you for me to go back and address their feedback.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to give you my feeling about it because I've been quite passionate about creating a really walkable and wonderful town center for the town that enhances the quality of the town. And I'm also very concerned, of course, about our economic situation and the contribution of businesses. But they have to, the reason the Amazon warehouse was turned down was because of traffic problems and where it was located on that main portion of the street that came through. The amount of traffic that would have come through, given that kind of business, would have been incredibly impactful for Boxborough. So that is something that I think needs to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you for that feedback. On your earlier point about, it's less about townwide and you're actually looking at particular areas. Yes, that's absolutely a part of it. And so the aspect of land use and where it is and where the opportunities are is absolutely a part of it, right? So that bifurcation of there being a walkable village town center and also a corridor along the freeway, right? That is more appropriate for bigger businesses or what have you is perfectly within line of what the economic development planning process will account for. If that helps.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Austin, do you have further questions or discussion for? Oh, Megan, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, do you look at other towns that might be comparable? I'm thinking like the town of Bolton is very similar in how their main town area goes along a main road. The town of Berlin, they have, just similar size. Wondering if that plays in or if the committee talks to you connect us with people, different towns.
Yeah, so absolutely, the other towns could be inspiration, like, have warnings of past examples or what have you. Absolutely. And so that's a great example of hearing feedback from you about the towns that you believe are comparable. Because of course, from a central regional planning authority, you might see broadly similar statistics, but of course, when we get into ideas of quality of life and what feels similar as comparables, right? It's like you might get different answers. And so, I've written down Bolton, but exactly that. Like if you, as committee members, see interesting projects from neighboring or other towns that seem like comparables, right? It's like retain that information, and feel free to send it to me or send it through Alec to me about these are interesting concepts that could you consider it? And, absolutely,
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, good point, Megan, for sure. Okay, so Alec, what is our next step? Or Austin, what is our next step?
So for me, I'll as this being the kickoff process for me, I will be beginning on that review, in part reviewing on the past products that you have put out to again get more of that local context, to pull together the local numbers, to begin that data analysis. Alec and I have not set up recurring meetings or whatnot, but we'll be in touch about the communication that works best for all involved. But this is the official kickoff, so we'll start in that phase 1 data collection and starting the analysis, and so we'll, with time, build out that engagement strategy and seeding the contacts and getting organized there. And so no next date yet. I don't have a next meeting for all of us to get together, but the work begins, and so that's the exciting part.
It is. Thank you.
Yep.
Alec, do you have something further on this for us? Is there something that we should be, expecting to be working on in the next month?
Yes. So very briefly, tomorrow I'll be forwarding out Austin's slides from the presentation. You already have copies of the award letter, the full contract. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details, you have the scope of work available to you. But what I'll say is most immediate for this committee is to let the questions of tonight percolate, let those kind of sit and simmer. And I would say within the next week in particular, if anything comes to mind as to avenues of direct outreach, groups that we should be conscientious of, please look back to those 3 questions, forward any of those informations to me, and I can then pass them on to Austin. I would recommend that the committee funnel communication through me so that I can keep a record of it for the public. If at any time a majority of the board sends in comments or feedback, we'll just need to make sure we make those publicly available as well. So that way the communication is open and available for all to see. But as Austin said, it's always an open door for communication throughout this project. So feel free to send me comments, questions as you have them. And I'll set up an email chain with that, with those slides on them. So just as always, remember, email me individually, not as a reply all to the whole group. That way we don't run afoul of open meeting law.
Got it. All right. Austin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I again really appreciate the active discussion and engagement. And I've taken multiple pages of notes. I assure you. So.
Great, and we're looking forward to working with you and kind of in digging into this. It is something. I think it was Mark who mentioned that it's something that has needed to be done for a long time, and it is in our master plan, as John mentioned. So it's just a really important piece of work that we need to roll up our sleeves and get going on.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
Same. All right. All right. So we can move to the next agenda item.
Madam Chairperson, I will note the Oscar on behalf of Oscar's Burritos was here earlier this evening. It does appear that he has signed off
around 8:22.
Yeah. If you'd like, I can share his materials and I can walk you through them. I did have multiple conversations with himself.
Sure.
With him and his installer. But of course, the conversation was meant to be with him. So I'll leave it to
Yeah.
the board's discretion.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So in your packet, you'll find 3 items that were added. 2 were added on the 9th. One of them was added yesterday as it was hot off the presses and just received. So to date, Oscar has invested a variety of elements into the project. You'll see in his itemized cost breakdown that he has invested $31,964. So we're just under the 32,000 mark. As you'll remember, this is a $40,000 project in total. So he is just under that threshold. The next step being getting the coffee equipment itself, that being the driving force, and then he'll be able to fill the pastry shelves as well with the various products. So a component of this has been the construction activities. You'll see there's J&P, DL Sons. He's also had plumbers and electricians come in and had some web product done. He also had this larger investment, H2O Care, that was for the water filtration system that was necessary to be installed. As he has described it on many an occasion, the water quality simply wasn't sufficient to provide the quality that he needed for a coffee product, and he made that major investment pretty early on in the process. You'll see that dates back to September of 2024. In addition, Oscar did provide a full breakdown of equipment. He's partnered with Atomic Coffee Roasters. They're a company based out of here in Massachusetts, and they provide a full suite of services. So they provide much of the equipment. They provide a variety of different pieces, as well as the training that comes with it. So they'll be the same group that comes in and trains the various employees that Oscar has either hired or designated to work on this side of the business. This itemized quote covers all of that. And then you'll see even the shipping cost broken in. That's $13,982, and that brings him over the $40,000 threshold. So this is the final item. I did receive confirmation earlier this week that Oscar has signed on the dotted line for this. So this is not a signed copy of the quote, but this Matt, who's listed here, did confirm that for me. I also asked Matt to provide a detailed scope of work so that you could understand the full scope of services, not just my words, but the items and the components that go into it. He also steps out a timeline, and so he approximates 6 to 8 weeks from the signature, which has been put in place, and that would bring you out to, bear with me real quick, round about April 12th, 2026. And I will note your April meeting is in flux right now. We haven't set a date for that because there are a couple absences that month. So as you're considering whether to offer an extension and when to offer that extension, it might be prudent to consider an extension into May. This is longer than I had initially anticipated, but I do feel more confident now, having seen Matt enter the picture and noting that the contract has been signed, that this is squarely on the rails. We have the final milestones in reach, both from a funding perspective as well as the training and the kickoff component. So I can do my best to answer questions. Of course, I'm not Oscar. I'm not an employee of Oscar's Burritos or Oscar's Sweets, which is what he has named this component of the business. But I'll do my best to answer questions on his behalf, since he did have to step aside, it appears.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Alec as Oscar?
What was the original grant that we offered? Was it the committee? Was it 20?
It was 20.
20,000. Okay. And so it's 31,000 so far, 964. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
This is a $40,000 project. Just confirming the numbers. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
And Oscar had originally quoted at around about 45,000. He had outright said he would cover the remainder of the cost, so he had come in with a slightly larger grant match than the 50%. This brings it pretty in line to where we expected it to land ultimately, with a little bit of escalation.
Mm-hmm. So as he's looking for an extension because based on the estimates from the Atomic Coffee, and that they said like 4 to 6 weeks. I read through it, and so should we extend, as you said, into May and set a date for May? And then, do we say like that's it? I mean, it is really kind of going on for a long time.
Yeah. But I leave that decision to you as a committee. I can say that Oscar has taken a lot of steps over time. I know this is really a key driving element, and it brings the experience and expertise. But yeah, it's as I said, as we went into this phase of it, we do have until December 2026 legally to expend funds.
Okay.
The funds have already left our coffers, but nonetheless, this is a project that was meant to be wrapped up quite a while ago. So entirely left to the board's discretion. We're at the end of my jurisdictional authority as your administrator. All decisions must now run through you.
Well, I don't have an issue with doing the extension now that you've already said, we have up until December 2026. I mean, it looks like he is back on track. I know he had some family issues going on, and he hit a couple of other speed bumps, specifically with the water, and so I don't have an issue with extending into May just to kind of keep it at a safe date. That's 3 months from now, right? Yeah. March, April, May. Yeah. What is everybody?
I agree.
Saying? Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
I like that he's going with the Massachusetts Coffee Company. I know George Howell is the thinking flower, and I like it. So I'm like, that's good.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. All right. If there aren't any other comments, Alec, I take it you need a motion for us to extend.
Yes. So
We need a date.
Yeah, as I say, real brief, we should have just a quick discussion on your May meeting. Your normal meeting date would be May 21st, which falls squarely in the week that I believe is being targeted for annual town meeting. Haven't looked at the calendar in a while, but I think that's it. So my question back to the committee is, would we like to reschedule for May 14th or May 28th? And that would inform the motion I would give you.
I can do either the 14th or the 28th. How does everybody else feel about that? The 28th is right. Is that, oh, yeah. Is that Memorial Day weekend? No, it's not Memorial Day weekend.
No, it's the 25th is Memorial Day.
Okay. Yeah, do we want to say
maybe before town meeting, the 14th?
14th. Is everybody else okay with May 14th?
I am.
Okay. Lala, would that work for you?
It's my birthday, so
I wondered. I was like, I feel like Lala's birthday's in May.
Well, so, then you can
We'll have a quorum.
meeting. We'll get a quorum. You should go celebrate your birthday. Take the night off. All right. Alec, can you give us the motion? And
yes. So, Madam Chairperson, you would seek a motion to extend the grant awarded to Oscar's Burritos through May 14th, 2026.
So moved.
okay, Mark moved.
I'll second.
Megan seconded. Any further discussion? All right, I'll take a roll call vote. John?
Neil, aye.
Mark?
White eye.
Lala?
Selvaraj, aye.
Megan?
Connor, aye.
And Reap, aye. All right, Alec. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk to Oscar. All right. So the next item on the agenda is chairperson's report. So I just threw a bunch of stuff in here as far as the external communication goes. Alec, do you have any update on that outreach to Syncor and or Jumbo Capital?
Yeah, so unfortunately, not good news to share. Myself and the assistant town administrator did attempt to make contact with Syncor, and those have been fruitless efforts so far.
Okay.
So it's the sentiment that we have heard is that it's really a matter of the package available and the benefits of moving to New Hampshire with lower tax implications. But we have not heard that directly from them. So that's only speculative. My intent at this point is to dive back into jumbo capital management. They're a known commodity. We left that to the side. We contacted them right around the holidays, but weren't really sure we'd hear back around the holidays. So I'll pick that one back up in the meantime, and I leave it to the committee's discretion. If you want us to continue exploring this conversation with Syncor, there are some more aggressive avenues I could take. I could reach out to the Bureau of Labor and Workforce and ask that they help bridge the gap. Might not be received the best, but it might actually get a hold of someone. So
I don't necessarily, I don't think it's necessary at this point. We really just wanted to kind of do that exit interview to just kind of find out, and also from a positive sense, find out they were in Boxborough for a very long time. So to find out what it was that they did like about doing, what worked while they were doing business in Boxborough, and perhaps there's a way, instead of trying to get somebody's time, maybe there's a way to send either an email or an actual letter, an old-fashioned letter, letting them know kind of a sorry to see you go, kind of want to find out what it is, that, without taking the negative point of view, take the positive point of view, like, just give us some feedback about what it was like to do business in Boxborough. We just want the information. So that could be one way to do it. I know we had also talked last time about kind of getting that list together of outreach to local businesses, and Mark and I said that we were interested. I think Megan said you might be able to do some too. So I don't know, Alec. I think maybe it would be helpful to have a separate meeting, like just a working group, or just if you want to put a list together. And you and I can meet, and then I could reach out to Megan or Mark and say, hey, like, here's a company. Can we coordinate for one of us or two of us to go with, one of us to go with Alec to meet with them. So do we have any updates on that list? I know Ian had pulled together a list.
Yep, it's all set. It's squared away, ready to go. So I think that's a great way to pick it up. I'll be in touch next week.
Great.
For you and I to start divvying these things out. We'll tag in Megan and Mark, and we'll start making contact in the month of February. Short, but maybe we'll get a couple off before March.
We'll see. Yeah, I think it's just good to kind of start that, and then again, that helps us build that database and start working with, like what Mass Econ had told us. We just kind of need to touch kind of every month, set up a schedule on that. Rich isn't here. He was the one that was actually going to be setting up social media, and we were talking about the newsletter. So can't have, we really kind of need to build this list of companies, local businesses and email addresses to be able to send a newsletter to, or to kind of tell them about our Facebook page and that sort of thing. So we haven't gotten any further on that. Regarding Village for a Day, I think I was supposed to reach out to the freebie folks and just kind of ask them about their dates for October, and also to ask them, or actually, I think I just want to check with everybody here. What were our thoughts about doing it on the same day as freebie versus a different day? Or does it matter? I think we had some issues with setup because we had to back off until they were done.
Yeah, I mean, makes it kind of murky.
It does, because everything at freebie is free, and yet we want businesses to feel welcome to come in selling their wares.
Right. Give it its own day.
Okay, so let me check with I'll check with Mary Pavlik and Heather first, and just say, hey, can we claim October 3rd? And I'm guessing, they usually do the big freebies a little later in the month, which is why on October 18th this past year, we piggybacked onto that. So I will do my homework this time. And then as far as the commercial real estate contacts with Village Center, I think, Alec, I'll probably need your help again when it comes to reaching out to Aaron to be able to get his permission and hopefully participation, and the businesses that are within those buildings there. So yeah, so I thought, I didn't know that Rich was going to be here. So the zoning bylaw amendments for annual town meeting and fall town meeting, Mark or Alec, can you guys speak to those?
I'll let Alex speak to that because it's probably on his plate right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. So next week, some of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments will be posted on the website. The board has set a schedule to start their public hearings on Monday, February 23rd. There are a variety that will probably be of interest to this committee. I'm just pulling up my spreadsheet over here that I'm keeping track of it all. So not descript to annual town meeting or fall town meeting, but some in particular that kind of hit the boxes of what this committee works on. There's been a proposal to bring back changes to the IC district and Mass Ave zoning overall. This committee will remember you heard a presentation last year on a proposed B2 zoning district, which has been brought back in some form and fashion. Additionally, there has been a proposal to revise the zoning bylaw to expand the scope and authority of the Design Review Board, effectively bringing their scope to include the Business and Business 1 district, which would encapsulate the majority of that core Mass Ave corridor. Let's see. There has been a discussion and a first draft published of a Village Center overlay. So it's very much in its infancy, but starting to hit many of those objectives from a legislative standpoint, from what is included in your Village Center reconnaissance report, which was prepared by Ty and Bond. So starting to see that come to fruition. There was also discussion and intent to bring forward, I think this one's actually for annual town meeting, a revision to the specialty food shop definition. So you'll remember we heard presentation that during Divya's preparation of her restaurant, there was some discrepancy between whether she could be considered a specialty food shop and a restaurant. And we are choosing to bring forward, or I should say the board is choosing to bring forward potential legislation that would revise that definition to include beverages and alcoholic beverages specifically. Let me just scroll real quick. There's been discussion and an intent to bring forward revisions to the parking calculations. So that would directly affect businesses in the required parking areas. Additionally, there is a discussion on a single-use plastics bylaw. So that would regulate single-use plastic products, which mostly affects retail-based businesses, as well as direct consumer services. ADU revision. So there is an intent to increase the capacity of the by right allowed accessory dwelling unit, which is an economic element in regards to how people use their home and the viability of aging in place. So those are just some key highlights. In total, we discussed 19. Good for us. We discussed 19 different zoning bylaw and general bylaw amendments. Many of them will not come forward at annual town meeting. We expect a fraction of what was the 10 placeholders we put forward will actually be moved on, and then we fully intend to use fall town meeting to bring several land use policies forward.
Great. So on February 23rd, which of those that you mentioned will be part of that public hearing? Is it the Mass Ave IC zoning, the DRB? Is Village Center on there? I thought that one wasn't baked.
Bear with me real quick. I just need to double check the placeholders.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead?
The ADU was yeah. Or is it just the public hearing notice? Maybe you just bring that up.
Yeah. So as of right now, it's scheduled to include the B2 zoning district,
Yeah.
the revisions to the design review bylaw, the revisions to the ADU bylaw, the revisions to the parking calculations,
Yeah.
Revisions to the farm and agricultural definitions, revisions to the specialty food shop definition, and that is it for zoning bylaws.
Okay. Can you talk about that farm and agricultural? I don't know about that one.
So that one's something that was percolated by Ed Cataldo, the zoning enforcement officer, and myself. We had a resident come in and inquire about a potential use of land, which I believed would be agriculture. And Ed Cataldo read our zoning bylaw and said, that's not really within the scope of the definition, but he did not disagree. That's a typical agricultural use. And as it turns out, the zoning bylaw definition does not fully align with the right to farm bylaw definition, which the agricultural committee and many other engaged groups worked very hard to get the board or to get the town established as a right to farm community. Our intent and next steps, and I spoke briefly with the agricultural commission chair earlier this week about this, and he wanted to make sure that they were fully looped into the process. But next steps, we'll be drafting a simple revision that aligns the zoning definitions with the general bylaw definitions, which are more up to date. We'll circulate that to the AgCom, and they'll provide feedback to the planning board as well. So that one is, in my opinion, a rather simple one, just in alignment with the most up-to-date regulations.
Okay. Two things. One is, may I ask, what was the use that this person came forward with that Ed deemed was not?
Yeah, it was the raising of trees for harvesting, not specifically harvesting for lumber, but harvesting for replanting at another site, which is simply growing trees like any other plant for replacement elsewhere. But the zoning bylaw definition is rather thin, leaves a lot of room for discrepancy interpretation, whereas the general bylaw definition captures a lot more of the full scope.
Well, because okay, that sounds to me like it's a nursery. And under our current zoning bylaw, a nursery would not be allowed, or maybe not in AR. That's the issue.
In Ed's reading of it, there was not a clear path to a yes on this one, and I felt strongly. I think he agrees, but I'll let him speak for himself if the question comes directly to him by an outside entity. I felt strongly that's pretty cut and dry agriculture.
Interesting, really interesting. Little side note, Boxborough News has a great story this week written by a high school student about the right to farm signs. So
very cool.
The great signs we have around town. John, did you have something? Since you're on
I was just going to say there's a subtlety in the nursery versus harvesting, because a nursery, technically you bring in bundled plants and sell them versus growing and then, digging up and harvesting them. I think that's the subtlety of it.
Okay.
How does that work with the Steel Farm Christmas trees when they take the tree and plant the tree? I don't know. I'm just curious. They don't do that anymore. Maybe that's why.
That's forestry.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
All right. Okay, well that's great. Do we need, if there's going to be more members of the EDC, a quorum of the EDC at the public hearing on February 23rd, do we need to post a meeting, or?
It's always best to post a possible quorum notice. Not that you'll convene an agenda or convene a meeting, but that way it's noted that a quorum may be present. I would just say, shoot me an email, even just the day of, if you think you're going to be attending that item, and I can post the notice, but preferably shoot me an email, by a week from today if you think you're going to be attending it. And as always, planning board meetings will be available for reposting, if not live broadcast, if you just want to tune in that way.
Right. Well, Mark and Rich are already there. I always attend for Boxborough News, so that's already a quorum, but it's not like official, going there as an EDC member to comment on a at a zoning bylaw hearing. So anyway, if anybody else, Lala, John, or Megan plans to attend, just send Alec an email, and Alec, you can make the call about whether you need to post. I will definitely be there. All right, and then the last item was the Boxborough pitch deck at the advice of Mass Econ. That Alec, I think you said you already had a framework going, so maybe at our next meeting, the committee could look at a rough draft of that. How does that?
Yeah.
And I can help you with that, or anybody else that loves doing PowerPoints.
Yeah, if with the committee does want to assign one committee member to work with me on it, so I can bounce a first draft off of and then bring it in. But yes, let's put that on the agenda now, so that way it sets a placeholder and reminds me to get this one done.
Yeah, no, I know, and I dropped the ball on that too. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, that's right, we have a meeting next week. Megan, correct me if I'm wrong. At the last meeting, I think you said you were interested in working on that with Alec. If not, please don't take this as pressure.
No, I was just mentioning. I was just thinking that. I think I volunteered at the last.
Okay, if you still want to do that, then you can work with Alec. That's great. Thank you.
So, Megan, I'll send you a first pass at it, probably the week of the 23rd. It'll be after the 23rd because I've got a lot on
it.
But yeah.
Good. I'm on college tours next week, so I'll look at it next week.
Yeah, nothing next week for Megan. It is school vacation week, as Alec, I'm sure you know too.
Very excited.
All right, so let's look at our the next meeting. So the next meeting we have scheduled is March 19th. I don't have an issue with that date. Does anybody else have a conflict?
I'm good.
I mean, that's our typical third Thursday. April, as Alec mentioned earlier, there is a conflict there. So our meeting would normally be the 16th, but Alec isn't available and I'm not available. The following week is vacation week. Is that right?
It's April 17th through the 26th.
Right. Okay. So.
And Abby, I will just note, so I'm unavailable for both of those Thursdays, but Ian can be coordinated to attend in either case. It does not conflict with his sustainability committee meetings.
And I'm not available either Thursday. I'm away. I'm leaving on the 16th and I'm not back until the 24th. So I'd rather not have a meeting if I'm not here. What about the 9th? Would that work?
March or April?
April, I'm sorry.
That works.
Works for me.
Works for me too.
All right. Why don't we have it just a little earlier that month? Do you guys like 8 o'clock? I like 8 o'clock.
I love it.
Everybody else good with 8 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I just it kind of gives us
Time to eat.
Time to eat and kind of settle in. Yep. I do like that. All right. So now we've got our April date, and then we briefly talked about May when we were talking about
May 14th.
Oscars. Did we say
May 14th?
The 14th. Okay. Great. All right. I think that's good. Let's hold off on going through June, July, and August. It's a little too far for me. I don't have anything else. Did I forget anything? Does anybody have any questions or want to make any comments?
I want to make one comment, but it's really more of a town thing. I think it's we've completely lost our way that a few years ago as a town we agreed to add a fall town meeting to specifically deal with planning issues and nothing else. And now all we do is pile in planning things in the ATM, and then this fall special meeting gets pushed halfway around, and that's all about money. So I think somehow we should circle back to what we originally planned.
I was never in favor of that in the first place.
Oh, jeez. Well, I guess that's something maybe to take up with the planning board directly, John, to be able to say, hey, you guys are using time at an annual town meeting that was meant for the budget.
It's actually the select board.
I mean, just as speaking as a planning board member, we have so much stuff to do. And so we're just taking every opportunity to bring it forward. But I hear you, John, at first I was not in favor of the idea of having the fall town meeting. And then, once I became reconciled to it, I said, well, okay, then at least we'll focus on the one thing. But now we got it at both town meetings, so there's no focus on any one thing anymore. So I think the original purpose is getting kind of muddied up. But you got to understand, we got a lot of work to do, and so we're just trying to take every opportunity we can to get it done. So it's a good discussion, though, for the board to have, because it's just, I'm curious to hear what the town has to say about it. Actually, that's probably more interesting. It's not what I feel about it so much as what other people feel. I'm curious to hear.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, John. It's kind of a good reminder of the origin of fall town meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, it is 9:34. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mark moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All
Seems
right,
to be the
Megan
pattern.
seconded. There we go. It'll be really easy for you on the minutes. No further discussion on adjournment. I'll take a roll call vote. Lala,
Silver Shy.
Megan,
Connor, aye.
Mark,
White eye.
John,
Neil and I.
and Reap I. Thanks, everybody.